Ladies and gentlemen, it is the talk of the town, Donald Trump's one big, beautiful bill. And today I'm going to be going over from the White House some of the things that are in the bill. Yes, it will be adding to the debt. People saying it's just kicking the can down the road some more because it's very enticing when you're talking about spending more money. It's like the economy rewards you when you spend money. And it's an unfortunate thing. We know that it has to change. I know Trump is taking a big step within this bill to cut some of the Medicaid fraud. He's not touching Medicare. He's not touching Social Security. They were originally trying to eliminate taxes on Social Security. And in this article, it says it seemed like they were saying they were going to do it. But from what I've heard, they're not doing that. And honestly, I mean, when you're talking about tax cuts with a $2 trillion deficit and $38 trillion already in debt, and I mean, when you look at the interest that we're servicing, the interest rate on the debt, I mean, 14% of our budget is going to interest to service the debt. And that's only going to keep going up the more debt that we have. That's why, and by the way, I looked it up, it's $9.3 trillion that has to be refinanced because of the 2021 spending, the 5-year treasury bonds that they gave out in 2021. So they got to refinance around $9 trillion in debt in 2026. That's why Trump is telling Powell the rates have to come down. And Powell said they are. I think we're going to have 3 or 4 rate cuts before 2026. It's going to be refinanced. We're probably going to save around $200 billion when we refinance if we get the interest rates down to a 2% or at least 2.5%. But I'm going to go through this. And we also there's some things to talk about. We are going to be generating revenue through tariffs. I have seen numbers. My original number, I said, well, it's going to be around $250 billion. Then I did the math based off of where the tariffs are right now, and it's very loose math because we don't know exactly the trade deals that are going to be negotiated, how much of the tariffs are staying on, how much are coming off. Also, you're going to have companies say, we're not going to pay these tariffs anymore. We're just going to produce things domestically, which is what Trump wants, but it's going to take away from some of the tariff revenue. I had said it was $250 billion. Then I did the math. I said, all right, maybe it's $400 billion. Well, I've been looking at some experts and some predictions. They say it's $250 billion. So I think the tariff revenue is probably going to be around $250 to $300 billion, honestly. I know they say, well, just on the auto tariffs alone, it's $100 billion. But there's a lot of different factors at play. And you're going to get more domestic production, which is good, but it's going to take away from tariff revenue. So I think it's probably going to be 250, 300 billion, something like that. When it comes to the Medicaid cuts, they say what they said was 900 billion over the span of 10 years. So it's basically 90 billion per year in savings on the Medicaid cuts. And that's from illegals, by the way, and temporary immigrants siphoning off of that. And so that should just be fraud cuts. It's nothing crazy. It's not like you're looking under the hood with Social Security or Medicare or anything of that nature, but they are going to have to restructure Social Security completely. That is a guarantee that's going to have to happen. It's not happening in this bill. I'm just saying in general. So Medicaid, there are some cuts. Medicare, which we spend more on, and also Social Security, which we spend even more on that. There's no cuts, but they're also not eliminating the Social Security taxes. That really wasn't a campaign promise by Trump. It was more about the no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. That's in here. So let's go through this. Delivers the largest tax cut in American history, means an extra $5,000 in Americans' pockets with double-digit % decrease to their tax bills. And so they reference the people earning 30K to 80K. And this is really what people have to understand with the original Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017. He cuts taxes for everyone. And you may say, well, he shouldn't, the bigger corporations, especially when we're talking about a $2 trillion deficit, tax cuts are, you could argue they could spur economic activity and pay for themselves if we get more of it. But we'll see what happens. I mean, the tax cuts were going to happen no matter what. Trump had said it. It was a campaign promise. It's coming. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime. That's another thing that for sure will be coming. And Trump had promised that. You've got big, beautiful deportations. The bill permanently secures our border by making the largest border security investment in history, funding at least 1 million annual removals of illegal immigrants. So they're saying they can fund 1 million removals. So for over 4 years, that would be 4 million. Now, whether or not they have the infrastructure within ICE and the Border Patrol agents to be able to execute this, they're getting the funding for it. We said they needed the funding. They got it a little bit with the CR like 2 or 3 months ago, but now they're saying this is really the investment. It wouldn't surprise me if they started tweeting out numbers again. They get this money in, they get an influx. You have to expand the infrastructure base within ICE to be able to deport more people. And I mean, they've gotten desperate to where now they're saying they'll give you $1,000 if you self-deport. But I do think they are going to start deporting a lot more people. This bill gets passed, there's going to be more money for them. I've talked about the ICE needs more money. That's just, it is what it is. Finishes President Trump's border wall. I feel like I've seen this 5 different times in 5 different bills talking about the finishing of the border wall. 701 miles of primary wall, 900 miles of river, 629 of secondary barriers, and 141 miles of vehicle and pedestrian barrels are going to be constructed. So the border wall is going to, but they've secured the border, and there's very little encounters. The encounters are down 95%. It's amazing. That's one of the great propaganda things that you can use for Trump and the presidency. He has eliminated, for the most part, illegal immigration. There's no encounters. You eliminate it by 95% within a single month of being in office. It's an impressive thing. That's for sure. Boosts Border Patrol and ICE agents on the front line. So, wow, they're going to hire around 10,000 new ICE personnel, and this looks like they'll be on the front lines to keep people from crossing and patrolling it. Protects Medicaid for Americans by kicking 1.4 million of illegals off the benefits. Eliminates waste, fraud. This was what I was talking about. So supposedly that this is going to save over the course of 10 years $900 billion. It's about $90 billion per year. Again, when you look at Medicaid, you look at our budget. In terms of entitlements are like 40-50% of our budget. It's absurd. But Medicare and Social Security are more than Medicaid in terms of our expenditures. But Medicaid is still a lot in terms of how much we spend annually per year. Requires able-bodied Americans to work if they receive benefits. And that kind of goes back to the whole extended unemployment under Biden that was really catastrophically bad and hurt inflation significantly. That was something that the Biden administration did. They always talk about, well, it's COVID, it's once in a century. There's so much revisionist history on that. There's no way the United States should have faced 9% inflation. True inflation was 11%. And it wasn't just the Biden administration, but I also think the Fed, you could blame the Fed, but the Fed's they're an extension of the Democrats, especially with what the Fed did in 2024, like 2 months before the election in September, they lower rates. It's a coincidence though, but now inflation's lower. They won't touch the rates. It's funny. Reverses the spending curse plaguing DC. It delivers a deficit reduction, and the largest deficit reduction is nearly 30 years with 1.6 trillion in mandatory savings. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, they're going to be saving some stuff, but you talk about the tax cuts, things like that. That's what's going to potentially increase the deficit and the debt overall. Ends taxpayer-funded sex change for minors. So, I mean, that seems pretty obvious. Provides historic tax relief to Social Security recipients. I heard this wasn't happening. So I don't know. Maybe there's some relief that got through and some didn't. I don't know. I heard that it wasn't allowed to happen. It will give Americans permanent tax relief through the tax cuts. So that's basically the same thing, just talking about the tax cuts. Modernizes air traffic control, fulfilling Trump's plan. Remember when they did the PSYOP with, Trump fired all the air traffic control people so all the planes are crashing? Total false. They did the numbers. It's like less planes have crashed this year than the years prior. But ends the taxpayer-funded Green New scam. So they're rolling back a bunch of this. This will save them money in rolling back these initiatives. Whether or not you think this is important or not, they jammed everything into that Inflation Reduction Act. Oh, let's put the Green New Deal on it. It's like when they tried to pass the bill to secure the border and there was $50 billion in aid for Ukraine. And then they said, well, Trump killed the bill. And the bill includes $50 billion in aid for Ukraine and $14 billion for Israel. The Immigration Reduction Act is based around green energy. Yeah. Incentivizes Made in America. We've got this one. Once in a generation chance to revitalize our nation's defense capabilities, protect the homeland from new threats. Trump's Golden Dome, which will have an upfront investment of $25 billion. They say, people were originally saying, well, a Golden Dome to cover the entire area to protect the United States. Israel has their Iron Dome. They're a lot smaller of a country. But the Golden Dome, people are saying it's going to cost $1 trillion in total. I don't think so. I think it'll cost a lot less than that. But to me, that's an obvious thing. Now, whether or not with some of these advanced hypersonic missiles, it'll be able to stop all of them, having some insurance in terms of a deterrent system with how big our military already is, it's the most obvious thing. So I agree with the Golden Dome. Unleashes American energy dominance, and then this last one, boost American mineral development. The bill increases mining of domestic minerals and makes America less dependent on foreign adversaries for critical minerals. That's refinement. They're setting up refinement zones. And I had said it's very key. They put this one last because nobody cares about it. But now listen, the problem is when we find rare earths and minerals, they have to be refined in China, so they get sent to China. And some of that is environmental factors, but apparently they're going to be investing around $20 billion in refinement zones next to military bases domestically. So they're in the United States, military bases in the US. That's where they'll be refined. That could be a huge thing if we're able to refine our own rare earths without relying on China. And it could be even bigger if we're talking about extraction with the mineral deal in Ukraine, as well as potentially the purchase of Greenland. I'm not sure, where is the budget for Greenland? What if it's just like number 21, buying Greenland? This will enable us $72 billion to purchase the island of Greenland. No, I'm kidding. It's not on there. But it'd be interesting they added that. We're not going to have to pay $70 billion for Greenland, I don't think. I don't know. Maybe $30 billion, something like that. Maybe nothing. We just send the military there. But yeah, listen, when you've got something like this, I know people are upset. It's kicking the can down the road. You're talking about it is more of a debt increase. And listen, in my opinion, I say this, because of the current structure in terms of the way our electoral system is set up with an election every 2 years, it's hard for Trump to go all in. And by the way, we saw what happened with Elon Musk. I don't know if you guys saw the interview. It's like Elon Musk is looking completely dejected, and they're trying to ask him, like, you said you were going to save $2 trillion, and then you said $1 trillion, and you've only saved supposedly $150 billion. And I mean, Musk is like, we couldn't touch certain things. You got to look at the entitlements. That's where you're going to save the money, is in the entitlements. They're not looking at them. And so that's just the reality. They're not looking at the Pentagon. And that's another thing with this bill. They're not saying exact numbers. The budget for the Pentagon is increasing by $150 billion. We already had by far the highest military budget. There's Republicans that want the highest military budget. The problem is, even if we just keep it the same, we're still going to have the highest military budget by far, even though China is trying to catch up. Now, China's economy has had a little bit of a downturn, so you'd think they would slow down their investment into the military, but increasing the military budget by $150 billion when, in terms of our overall budget, we are spending 14% on interest that services the debt, it's not the most ideal thing. But, when you spend money, the economy does well. The stock market goes up. No, it's true. It's true. This will 100% be a very good short-term thing. I think it will help for the midterms a lot because it's a lot of tax cuts. It's a lot of infusion. There's money infusion. But this is one of those things to where, if you give Trump 8 years, there's probably a significant downturn for many, many months. It's not these like baby little things like we saw with the tariff situation, which honestly I think did help bring inflation down. The unknown with the tariffs, because it didn't tank the stock market, but it brought it down a bit. And I mean, that's like a baby thing. It's already recovered. It's recovered. just keep spending. Just keep spending. Now, I'm not saying it's a good thing, and there are some things like it's a good first step with Medicaid, the cuts on that. And that's all fraud, by the way. It's like, oh, they're cutting it. No, it's all fraud. They're not touching Social Security. They're not touching Medicare in this. Unless somebody can show me that they are, that's all Democrat fear-mongering. But people do realize Social Security, something has to be done. We do not have the workers to be able to pay the current people that are retiring. There's too many retirees. There's not enough workers. That's how Social Security works. It's pay as you go. The trust fund is running out. I don't even think it exists anymore. It's like they stopped that in the 1970s, 1980s, I was reading. So, listen, when you look at a bill like this, there's some positive things. Where's the remittance, the 5% remittance tax on immigrants that send money back to their home countries? People are saying it should be 50%. Yeah, bring it up to like 30% on that. How much can you generate through a remittance tax? Bring it to 30, 40%. I wonder how much. well, maybe then people would leave. Maybe that would solve our problem in terms of the immigration issue and getting, that's a self-deportation. 50% remittance tax. We're going to get some people self-deporting, I think, if that happens. We're going to get some people leaving if that were to happen. But no, I mean, I don't know. But they are doing a 5% remittance tax in this bill as well. So listen, that'll generate more money, but they are going to generate money through the tariffs. Is it going to be enough to cover all of this spending that they have, including, I mean, it would be enough to cover the military increase, which is only 150 billion if you're going to generate 250, 300 billion. But that's not the only thing. You've also got all of the tax cuts coming in as well, which Trump promised. He said he was going to expand the tax cuts from 2017, and he's doing just that. And you might say, well, listen, I mean, this is the problem. When you're $38 trillion in debt, there's certain things that are going to have to be done at some point that really, to where you can manipulate the economy depending on what you want to get rid of. Really, it's one of two things the way I look at it. You either go after, you either tax people at a much higher rate, which is what liberals would do, or you go after the entitlements. Trump is starting to kind of chip away at the entitlements, it seems, but very timidly. But on the other hand, he's doing the tax cuts. So it's like canceling it out to a degree. But we'll see what this ends up doing. I mean, they're going to say it, it adds to the debt, and it's just what every president has been doing. I mean, we had the situation to where our spending got out of control. There's a lot of revisionist history on Trump's first term. Trump's spending was not out of control. It was more so based off of the tax cuts, but even if you look at a graph of the deficit per year, Trump was not going to add much at all. The only thing that killed Trump was the COVID rescue plan, which was a ton in terms of spending. And that was right before Trump left office. That would have been March of 2020. And he's forced to do it. And it destroyed all of his numbers. It destroyed his economy. COVID did. So it is what it is. But we'll see if this ends up getting passed. This is Trump's big, beautiful bill. And listen, when it comes to the immigration stuff, the border agents, ICE, they need to up that infrastructure 1,000% because they're not deporting anywhere close to the numbers that they need to. And that is something that is liked. It's got a form of, I wouldn't say bipartisan support. Democrats don't like it, but independent support. It's about 60% approved on deporting all the illegals. And that's even after to where we knew they were going to do this. They were going to say, well, you deported one and there's no due process, things like that. People don't even care, honestly. They really don't. I mean, it's still 60% approved, and they were using that fear-mongering with the gang member. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you like the video down below. Also, follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.